Hey y'all, and welcome back to the Perspective Podcast. I'm your host, Chandler Hoagland, and today we have Scout James.
Hello. Hi.
Welcome, Scout.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, so today we're going to be talking about heartbreak, but first we're going to get into the icebreaker. So if you were stranded on a desert island, would you rather be alone or with your worst enemy?
Okay. So this is tough because in this phase of my life, I'm trying really hard to not dwell on, having hate towards people, having an enemy.
Yeah.
Because it's just not a good use of our time, right?
Right.
But if I had to just pick, I think I would rather be alone.
Really?
Because the person that comes to mind of maybe we wouldn't get along very well and maybe we have some animosity towards each other, I think it would be a really loud environment, and I would just want some silence. I'm gonna get a good tan.
True.
Go out with a bang.
Yeah.
And just, talk to the Lord and just enjoy that time party of one.
Yes. Okay.
So
I can see that. See, mine would have been actually with my worst enemy.
Interesting.
Because I feel like I could work it out with them. I feel like the companionship and having someone we're meant to be with someone, whether we want to be or not, having relationships is a part of our natural being. So I feel I don't know.
That's awesome.
But
I would be more curious as to who you're talking about, though.
Yeah, I don't know if
you're
know yet. I don't really even
who I'm talking about.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. I don't feel like I really have an enemy. I mean, some people I dislike or I like less than others.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say I have an enemy, so that's why it would be easy for me to be I could work out my dislikes with you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that's powerful.
But if I actually had an enemy, then maybe I'd be I'd like to be alone,
yeah,
actually.
Yeah. No,
for sure.
I think that's probably a far more mature answer than mine.
Yeah, but probably not also. I don't know.
We'll talk about it later. I need to know who you're referencing.
Okay, you too. Well, I think I know, but we'll see. So let's dive right into this. To start with some background, how many serious relationships have you been in?
So, for what I define as a serious relationship, I have been in 3.
Mm-hmm.
And for, I guess, the remainder of this podcast, we can reference those as A, B, and C.
Okay.
And for me, serious, it doesn't necessarily have to meet a time standard, because they all vary in heavily in terms of the length that that they lasted, but they all were emotionally serious enough that I know they've had a very large impact on who I am, how I date, and just my views on being with another person like that.
Right.
So 3.
So I'm gonna guess A was your first one, B the middle, and C your most recent heartbreak. So tell us about A little bit first. What time period in your life was that?
So A, obviously, yes, the first, and was in that phase of life where you're starting to approach maybe feeling a bit more like an adult, but in reality, you don't know anything, and you're so young, it's your first love.
Yeah.
And
innocent.
Very innocent. And that one lasted a very long time and saw many stages of myself as well, which is what's interesting. Yeah. So yeah, young love, learned a lot. I don't know, I have lots of good things to say about it as a whole, but also, some not as good things as well. And just, I look back on it with fondness to the best of my ability, just because at the end of the day, to be with somebody for so long and to have so many coming of age memories.
Yeah,
even,
true.
You don't ever want to look back on that and be oh, I regret that, or I should have done this, because at the end of the day, I was a younger girl, loved a boy, and I just was trying my best and was so excited to be in the serious relationship for the first time.
Yeah.
And to go through all of those, school dances and things together.
Yeah, that is fun.
And how pure that is. So relationship A, was very unique and special in that way.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, so I want to hear about B a little bit, because I don't think I really know that much about B.
Do you know what B is? Do you know who that is? It's okay if you don't. It was
I think I have an idea, but it was kind of brief, right?
Very brief.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
B was you gotta talk about a slow burn. It was the opposite of that.
Oh.
It was it happened really fast.
Or burning down quick. Okay.
Yes, and it was a little spark and then it was gone. But it still taught me so much that I have to consider it a serious relationship, because I like was super, super into it, and I was so excited about it, and suddenly invested so much into it just within, you know, what felt like hours.
Yeah.
And then it was gone.
And would you say B was like your first serious relationship as an adult, like kind of more out on your own? You weren't in your hometown, right, at this time?
Yes, this was like the first really serious emotional investment I had following the first relationship, which was a big deal for me.
Yeah.
And was scary.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that also was why it was so exciting for me.
Yeah.
So to be able to branch out and just try something new with someone, that was like a really big deal for me. I think probably another reason why I have to categorize it as serious, despite it being not of like the length of time compared to the others.
But you took a lot from it,
yes,
for sure.
For sure.
So now going into C, that's your most recent.
Mm-hmm.
So give us a little background on that, and then that will kind of lead us into this podcast here.
Relationship C was still in the shorter time span, but also had a lot of emotional weight, and seemingly at the time was going to end in forever in a marriage, and didn't, which was like obviously very painful and has come with lots of lessons and hard times, but has also come with lots of good ones. And I don't know. So it was one of those things where it was heavy hitting and was very serious, and it gave me a picture of what I thought the rest of my life was going to look like, and then it was gone. Yeah. And that's okay. It happens, but definitely like has altered me forever.
Right. So you mentioned marriage in that one. And that was more of just like you were more than just talking about marriage. Y'all were engaged.
Yes. We were engaged for a short period of time. Yeah.
So that kind of takes me into my next question. What was the most challenging part of ending your engagement?
I think whether verbally or just to emotionally commit to marrying somebody, probably more so the emotional part than like physically saying yes, is just like a deeper level of obviously commitment, like, but to think like, okay, you know what, it's me and you, like this is what the rest of my life will look like, and I'm accepting that, I'm celebrating that, and I'm going to take it for its challenges, for its ups and downs, and like for all the obviously like great things that come from it too, and to settle into that, because obviously we had at that point, and then to have to take several steps back and be like, not only is that actually not going to be the case, but also like that person that was not only like presently a very big part of your life, but was going to be for so long, is gone. Right. So just having to like really adjust and take inventory on the fact of like, not only does my future not look like that anymore, but now my present day is going to look far, far, far different too. Right.
And so at that time, you know, I feel like when you get engaged, you start picturing your wedding. You start picturing what's after the wedding. Where are we going to live together? When are we going to start a family? You know, just the next chapters of life they just roll in naturally. And so do you feel like you had to mourn your future a little bit with that?
Yes, I think that probably is one of the like biggest like grievances you have. Yeah. Is knowing that you had all of these things to look forward to and all of these next steps, even like post-wedding, like of like, oh, like where we live, like you said, and you know, starting a family, and to feel like that is almost at your fingertips, and then to have to like put it down and say, okay, I will have that one day, but not as soon as I thought I would, is totally devastating. But not without like you know, for the right reasons. Yeah. So, but absolutely, I had to agree with that. It was definitely one of the hardest parts.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, I guess that really brings up a good point to in grieving, like you're losing these things, and I don't want it to sound like harsh, you know, but you know, you are losing these things that you thought were going to be your next steps. Was it even more difficult because all your friends or like people around our age are now getting engaged, getting married, starting families, and now you feel like almost you're starting over? Was that hard to get past?
Well, what was interesting was growing up, in my mind, I'd always had the age of 25 in my head of like, not necessarily of like a requirement, but how how satisfied I would be if I could kind of get my life settled down by then, because my mom got married at 25.
Okay.
And so, again, it was just a loose guideline, but thinking like, my mom was married at 25, like how cool would it be if I was? So then the fact that I kind of had let go of that once I started med school, thinking, you know, you've got a task at hand and it's going to take a couple years. You're going to date along the way, but don't focus on it. And when it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And like, holding yourself to any tight standard is just going to make you miserable.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden this happened so fast. And then I was thinking, holy cow.
It's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
So that kind of serendipitously happened. And then I thought, like, how neat. I am going to get that, even though it's not really that important, but how fun to think I kind of checked that box.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, again, to take a couple steps back and say, put it to bed, not right now. It's not for you right now.
Yeah.
And then to still see it happening around you, of course, and more so with every year that passes. People are getting engaged, married, having kids, buying homes, starting families, and it's beautiful. It's so cool. It can make it difficult, but I'm very grateful to say that I don't look at all of that with any animosity or envy at this point, because feel so strongly that like God's plan will prevail, and whenever that time is for me, it can't pass me. So
no, I think that's great, and I think it's really easy to compare yourself, especially on social media, and you know, you're only seeing the highlight reel, right? And so you're seeing these happy relationships, these happy marriages, these happy families. Do we know the truth? No, but it's so easy to find yourself in comparison to that. Absolutely. And I think it's awesome that you are able to be like present in your time, and satisfied in where you are in this life right now. And that's really cool. I commend you for that, because it's really hard to do, for sure. Especially when society's telling you, oh, you're of this age, so you need to do this, and you need to do that, and this is the order of things. And you're just living your best life, literally. And there's like nothing better than that. And I love watching it too. And like, it's truly the best. So back to us talking about grieving things or things being lost. Do you feel like you lost friends in your breakups or in these heartbreaks? I know that pretty much with all of your relationships, maybe not B as much, but with definitely A and C, you had mutual friends with your significant other. So what did that look like after breaking up?
Yeah, I think part of the beauty and the pain of relationships is you invest emotionally in people, whether it's because you met them through that person or like you found these new friendships together, and how like incredible that can be to like kind of form this community around the relationship. And one of my friends, it makes me laugh how she said it so eloquently, put like, you lose people in the divorce. That's just how it works. You lose people. And then how with A and C, that was very apparent, and how that can be one of the more difficult aspects, or maybe is for me and my personality, given that I will no longer live for the approval of other people, but also like I can't walk this earth thing. I don't want to have friends and you know, feel accepted. Right. So feeling like so intensely that I have like upset A, B, C, or D person, or that these people are saying these things about me, it's natural. It's going to happen, and you have to remember at the end of the day, people are just protecting the people they love, and I can't fault them for that. I think at the end of the day, there's also the reality of people will listen to the people they want to listen to, and if they don't want to seek you out, then at the end of the day, like, you're better off without them. Right. And there's been a lot of hurt involved in friendships, in all of the relationships. I won't just speak to one. And just having to remember that I'm blessed by the people that are here. Yeah. And that if I were to dwell on the people I've lost, whether they were people I met through them or not, it's not a good use of my time, because there are people that are standing right next to me. Absolutely. That deserve that energy. Yeah. So. No, I agree. And I think your friend was right. Like,
unfortunately, you do. Not only people, but things. I mean, you
Yeah.
lose a lot when people break up. You lose the simplicity or easiness to get together as a group of friends. Like,
Yeah.
you know, if we were a group and now this person went this way and this person that went this way, can we all still get together again? Like, how do you feel about that?
Well, what's interesting about it is I feel very, very strongly about the fact that a breakup is hard regardless of your role in it.
Yeah.
And that at the end of the day, people are hurting on both sides, and it would be unfair to say something drastic along the lines of like, I expect you to drop everything and come take my side, or come hear me out, or just like, you know, ditch your loyalty and make sure you like just come be my friend. That's not how things work. Like,
right.
That's just it's unrealistic. But I will say there is a common respect, a decency that you would like people to share.
Right.
That is not always there.
Yeah.
And
totally.
that can be pretty hurtful and harmful at times.
Yeah. No, I think unfortunately in breakups, like a lot of true colors show, and that is really hard to realize. Because naturally we do put friends on pedestals or put your significant other on pedestals, and this person that you've been pouring into for months or years is now going the complete opposite way of how they just treated you for the past months or years. Yeah. It's a really hard realization to come to. And I think people will take sides, and that sucks too, because they weren't even in the relationship. So that can be really hard to move on to as well.
Yeah, it's just a hard pill to swallow, and it's one of those things where the quicker I am able to realize that it's just, it doesn't feel good, but hold on to the people that are here for you now, and that's what matters.
Absolutely. So. And you kind of brought up a good point that I wanted to touch on, which was, you know, if you do the breaking up, do you feel like people, I don't want to say like feel bad for you as much, but you know, when someone gets broken up with, all their friends and peers are like, oh my gosh, I feel so bad for them. My heart hurts for them because their heart's broken. But people don't necessarily feel bad for the person that did the breaking, even though their heart can be broken as well.
Yeah.
So do you feel like in your heartbreaks, if you did the breaking or you had the actions that led to the breaking up, do you feel like people gave you the same grace as they gave the other person?
I think that's a really interesting question, and while I think it's a little bit funny that I get to be like the content expert on heartbreak at this point, just I can thankfully say I've experienced a lot, just in a couple relationships to hopefully give me some wisdom to help other people, maybe specifically women going through heartbreak. And something when you first approached me about this concept, that came to mind was how I've only dated like a handful of men up until this point, but how I very clearly can categorize these three relationships in my head of I was the heartbreaker, I was the heartbreaky, like rug out from underneath you, or it was a messy tornado of, you know, can we figure it out? This is painful. I am like, what happened? Storm. Yeah. Of, sure, somebody said like the final words, but it was not so simple of, you know, of a he said or she said. So to then like reflect on your question of, do people extend the same sympathy or the same understanding that, you know, it's not always so simple of like, oh yeah, like she dumped him and poor guy. Like, I can't imagine like.
It's not black and white.
It's not black and white, at least in my experience. And I think what it has taught me, at least, is that at the end of the day, it's between the people in the relationship. Yeah. And I think it's really important to hold on to the fact that people are hurting, love on them, do what you can to listen, offer words of wisdom, and just know in a healthy way, you'll never really know. Right. And that their relationships are so intimate and they're so complex. And to whittle it down to she dumped him and broke his heart is, I think,
It's a disservice to
yes,
the relationship.
that's a good word for it. It's a disservice.
For sure.
And I do think it is easy, especially, getting broken up with will never feel good, ever.
Right.
And to say, the person that did it, like, maybe deserves a little bit less sympathy, simplifies things, and maybe that is the case in, like, a majority of the time. Maybe it isn't. But at the end of the day, I walk away from all of these experiences, having been, like, obviously the 3 categories in my mind, just knowing, like, extend your sympathy to people, always. Give people the benefit of the doubt, and just love on them. Be a listening ear, and just know, like, you'll never really know, and you're not supposed to.
No.
So.
And I think, too, walking out of relationships, being on the outside, so, like, being a friend to someone who just went through heartbreak, you're going to hear that side of the story, right? You're going to hear your friend's side. And as much as I love my friends and do believe them, like, most of the time, there is his side, her side, and the truth. There's always 3, because everyone's going to perceive things in that relationship so differently. But I think, like you said, regardless of the side, you need people in your corner to love on you, being the heartbreaker, or in the tornado phase.
Yeah.
All of it. Okay, so going forward, now you are through the heartbreaks. Do you want to jump into a new relationship soon?
Easy answer, no. I think moving forward, I am excited to say that with all of these experiences, I am able to further develop myself, who I am, what I stand for, and realize that there are standards that any person should be held to in a relationship, and I will take my sweet time to find that.
Yeah.
And I'm very thankful to say I'm also, like, in the works of achieving my dreams. So it's like I've got things to do, and within God's timing, I will find the right relationship.
Yeah.
And if it means I have to go through a couple more to get there, then so be it. I have full faith it's all going to work out exactly as it should.
Yeah.
But I am by no means looking. I don't think that would be very healthy for me.
Yeah.
And but I also have again, the faith that, like, whenever is time, I will be ready.
Yeah, and you'll know.
Yeah.
And so is that the same advice that you would give other people going through heartbreak right now? Do you think it's important to take time for yourself after a heartbreak, to maybe either just self-reflect or do self-care, just kind of be okay with being alone for a minute?
Oh, 100%. I would say, if anything, the slower the better. And something that's been super meaningful to me that I've been reading about, learning about more, is just, like, the power of singleness, and how this time in my life and others' lives that are going through this it's a gift. And how, if I am given this time to be by myself, what an opportunity to strengthen my relationship with the Lord, to be able to more, like, intimately know Him, to get more into the Word, and arm myself. So in the future, with other challenges that will be presented to me, with relationships that I will encounter, and, whether they were romantic or just a friendship, to know, like, I will be a more complete version of myself.
Yeah.
Because I took the time to continue to develop my identity in the Lord. And just got to know myself better.
Yeah.
Because I think, despite the fact that I've only dated a few men, the spaces of time between when I really just, like, who am I? What do I like to do? What do I want to do? Is maybe been less than it should be. So just knowing that this time is precious, and how excited I am now for that, because how, again, devastating it was to think, like, oh, it's time, I'm gonna get married, to that be like, oh, okay, no, it's not, and that's okay. It's hard. Grieve it, feel all of it. You have to. And then know that, again, the self-care, all of it, the time is now.
Right.
And so for myself, just surrounding myself with people that have encouraged me, that have loved on me, especially since all of this has happened, the people that get it, that allow you to speak when you need to speak, and have good listening ears, having fun, saying no to very little. And so being able to make those memories has been really powerful for me. And then, just going to church, going to bed early, just, like, do what you need to do to feel like your best self. And so I'm trying to, like, really take advantage of that.
Yeah, and be present in that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of mentioned in that you are finding your own identity now. So do you feel like you ever found your identity in your partners that you were with in any of those relationships? Like you didn't necessarily know who you were yet. You were just this person's girlfriend, and that's what you accepted, and that's what you thought all you were.
Absolutely. And I would say yes to each of them, but to different degrees, though, thankfully, at least, because, in terms of relationship, I was so young, and I was, just very insecure. And again, like young, I was developing like who I was. I've only experienced up until so much of life. And so with B and C, I'd seen more, learned more, known myself a little better. So thankfully to lesser degrees for those, but yes to all of them. And how, again, that singleness is so crucial to remind us, like, no other person is going to complete me. They will complement me.
Right.
So taking the time to figure out who I am and what will best complement me instead of, looking for that other half. Other half, of course, is like not meant to be taken that deep, but just
not literally.
Yeah, they don't complete you. So
yeah. I think you totally said it right. Like complimenting, like that is the key word, because you need to know yourself, and that is going to make for the strongest relationships. Is you knowing yourself, them knowing themselves, and y'all come together and y'all compliment each other and you work together, and it's not, this person is making 90% of the decisions and this person has to just follow along and all they get is 10 because they identify in the leader.
Yes. And I think it's interesting too, because when I compare all three, there is a common theme, but they're all very different people. And it's always been that they're very strong-minded, they know themselves very well, and how alluring, very attractive that is to me. And seeing somebody who is so confident in what they believe and what they want to do and how they feel, because those are great traits. But also remembering, like, there's no issue with me feeling that way as well, and how I need to enter any relationship knowing that my opinions, my values, my thoughts, how I was raised, it is by no means inferior to anybody. And how my judgment is not flawed, and how, again, I'm not perfect, and I will never claim to be perfect, but I've always been first to discredit myself, and how that just won't fly anymore.
Yeah. So do you feel like you were attracted to those traits because you didn't feel like you were necessarily good enough, so they had to make up for those things, for being strong, for maybe decision making, having strong opinions? Do you feel like you just lacked those, so that's why you sought it in your partners?
Probably. Yeah, no, which is like sad to even admit to, because you don't want to think that, like, oh, I feel as though I'm lacking, therefore I'm going to find it in another. But I think at the root of the problem, probably, and that for a younger scout, a more naive scout, it just probably very easily fell into that of, like, I'm feeling unsure of myself, I'm insecure, I don't have great self-esteem, and here is this man, no specific one here, but just of, like, this confidence about them, they're so sure of themselves, like, how great will that be to kind of anchor into? When in reality, you get to know them, and that's really not the case either, like, so it can be a facade to some degree. But how easy it is then to identify with them, because it's like, look what they feel, look how sure they are of themselves, like, I can kind of lean into that.
Yeah. No, I think now, being the scout that you are today, you are definitely night and day from the scout that I first met, just because you know who you are through and through, and it's such a strong woman, and it's so good to see. And I think your relationships going forward are only going to improve because of that. And obviously, I don't want you to go through like 50 relationships till you find the one. And I don't think you want that either. I don't know, maybe you do. But after each relationship, you have just found more of yourself, and like more of what you want to complement yourself now. And it's been so beautiful to watch. Like, it's been great. Moving forward, what traits are you trying to avoid after going through A, B, and C?
That's a big question. It's so simple, but like that's moving forward, I want to date a man that values kindness over being nice.
Mm-hmm.
I think that at this phase of my life means everything to me, because I think a lot of people can put on this image of being nice, and I'm sick of nice. I want kind.
Right.
To me they're very different. I don't know, maybe some people think of them as synonymous, where I personally don't feel that way. I want to be with a man. It's easier to talk about what I'm looking for. Is that easier? Is that okay than not? Yeah. So kindness over niceness. A man that is rooted in God, because I think any relationship that has Christ at the center of it will be far, far more likely to succeed. I don't want to say they'll succeed every time, but in general, being able to be on that same page so you can like run the race together.
Yeah.
And then hardworking and humble.
Mm-hmm.
I think something that has become very old to me is this sense of the way I was raised, who I am, what I think, what I say, what I believe is above anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I, at my core, want to live a life that says that I am better than nobody.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I keep running into people that, whether they say they do or not, kind of
their way or the highway.
Yeah. So that attitude I want nothing to do with.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, like, I want to be in a team with somebody, and that attitude doesn't bear very well with teamwork.
No, I think relationships, really on both sides, like, it does need humility, and it does need to look pride in the face and say no more.
Mm-hmm.
Because being prideful is a really, really hard trait to deal with. When it comes to prideful people, they have an idea of what they want you to be.
Mm-hmm.
And that idea is set in stone in their head. And when you do not live up to that, it's going to cause them to be disappointed. It's going to cause them to look at you as less than. And I think dealing with prideful people is very difficult. And if you can be humble and admit you're wrong, I personally think that's very attractive. Like, because we're all wrong. None of us are perfect. And if you can say, hey, listen, like, I was wrong in that, there is nothing more attractive than that. I think that's important in every relationship, both sides.
I think that was the beautiful short answer to what should have been mine. So, pride. That's my answer.
It's just being a prideful person can really hurt a relationship, can hurt a friendship. I've ran into that before, and it's okay to admit you're wrong. I've been prideful myself, and it doesn't cause anything good. And I'm telling you, Scout, there's nothing better than admitting you're wrong and not being perfect. Because that's just reality. We're not perfect, and we'll never be perfect. And when you realize it's okay to not be perfect and life will still go on, it is so peaceful. It is so good. It is okay to say I'm sorry to people. And for a long time, I didn't say I'm sorry to my husband. I kept score, fighting to the end to make sure I was right. And it caused nothing good. And that is all pride. And thank God he's patient, because now that I know that, I'll be like, you know what, I was wrong and I'm sorry. And we move on. We're not harping on it for the next year.
Yeah.
And it's so good. It's so just, I don't know, weightless.
Yeah. And like the peace that comes with that, I'm sure is very liberating. And something else that I think is really important to like touch on with that is, at the end of the day, you do your best. You do your best. You have a good heart. You have pure intentions. You will still stumble, and you will still misspeak and make mistakes. But at the end of the day, if you know who you are and you just do your best to be a good human being in this world, to nurture into relationships and to be a good significant other, then the pride falls away.
Yeah.
And then if you, again, even further than that, if you have the ability to apologize, nothing can stop you. And so if we, I think, my guess would be is if we continue to navigate this life, trying our best, having good intentions, but also being very aware that this perfection that people chase is not attainable, then, you know, we're set up to be successful.
Yeah.
So
there's one being that is perfect, and I can promise everyone it is not us. And once you realize that, like, it really is pure bliss. And living in that has been the best decision I've ever made. In not chasing perfection all the time. Oh my gosh. It's exhausting to do that. And when you stop, it's like, man, life, it can actually be so good, and you can mess up, and it's okay.
And then holding yourself to that standard, I think, then translates into your relationships of expecting that from them as well, which then they'll always fail you.
Yeah.
And what an unfulfilling relationship to not only want yourself to be perfect, but for this other human being to do that as well.
Yeah. So, and we'll never measure it.
Yeah, it'd be a vicious cycle. So.
Okay, Scout, that was so good. I'm like loving your perspective on all this, on your heartbreak. I've learned a lot. I haven't gone through a lot of heartbreak, but I think heartbreak also comes in many different forms, not only just like relationships with your significant other, but maybe from friendships. And so I think a lot of your advice can carry over. Now, are you happy regarding your outlook on your relationships, past, present, future?
In general, yes. And I think that's based off of the fact that I find like my grounding in Jesus Christ. So to be able to fall back into that, knowing that moving forward, like that's how I need to operate, and just know like when I'm anxious, lean into the word, and you know, if I'm having a hard time with any kind of relationship, like pray about it. Just knowing I have that peace and that baseline, I think it's helped me a lot, because in a world of so many like changes and so much drama and different factors that could complicate things, like how could you ever keep up? And that anxiety is you know, suffocating. And so my current outlook on relationships, I think it's simplified, because I have, you know, the ultimate peace through God, which has been really, really helpful, because as somebody who is anxious and overthinks a lot and wants to overanalyze and just pick things apart, like I would just work myself into the ground. So that alone has been really nice. And then in terms of just like reflection on how I've handled things, I think that goes back to what I mentioned earlier, that I, again, have misspoke and have handled things poorly, but I find a lot of peace in the fact that like I want good, and I have loved people, and I've tried my best. Yeah. And I would hope that any of the people I've interacted with, particularly like the gentlemen I've been in relationships with, would know like I would never ever intend to hurt, and that I wish harm on nobody. Like, just to simplify it all, like we're all just little people trying our best, and at least I want to believe that, so I'll cling to that. And I've learned so much, and I've become so much better through all of these, not only experiences throughout the relationship, but from the breakups themselves. And I pray to God that those people can say the same. Yeah. So at the end of the day, like trying to find solace in the fact that like I know I'm better because of it. I know I'm where I'm at in life because of those things and that pain, you know? Yeah. And hoping they can say the same. I'm not ever going to seek out the answers, because I don't really think that's any of my business, but just hoping that like they're better people because of it too, because I mean, isn't that the point? Right. Like if it's not going to end in a marriage and some babies, then I hope, you know, it made us better, and taught us some things and gave us more developed traits and skills, so moving forward we can be better. And I'm not going to like act so like mature to say like that they haven't hurt me deeply, you know, of course, like, and that takes time to heal. I'm not saying that like a week later you should hop up and be like, woo, like that was so much fun, I'm so much better, I hope you are too. No, that's just not real. But all in all, like from what was the most painful thing I've experienced as an individual in my own personal life, it has also been one of the greatest things that ever happened to me. So no, that's so good.
I think I've shared this with you before, and I like love this message so much. Vegetation and growth happens in the valleys, and it's hard. And it's hard to be in a valley. But then when you get to the peak and you're on that mountaintop, you get to look down and see all of that growth. And how beautiful is that? Is that you don't have to stay in the valley forever, but when you are in the valley, you're going to grow. Mm-hmm. And when you're on that mountaintop, you are going to be much better for that time in those valleys. Mm-hmm. And I just love that because it really does like put life in so many ways in relationships into perspective. And you don't want to be on the mountaintop the whole time. Mm-hmm. Like, of course it's great, but being up there, you don't grow.
No.
Like, there is a part of the mountain that vegetation does stop growing. Mm-hmm. And that is not where you want to live all the time.
Well, it's interesting too, actually. Something that I've been thinking about, like, with the more recent events was, like, how powerful a breakup is, right? You know, mm-hmm. people always, you know, get their life together, you know, maybe, like, get a new job or lose some weight or start developing really healthy habits. You know, people mm-hmm. seem to kind of just let this be an opportunity to just figure out any messes that they've had going on, right? It's mm-hmm. always an opportunity to better yourself. Mm-hmm. And I remember, like, I was driving and I was thinking, like, are you kidding me though? Like, am I just gonna have to keep going through breakups to mm-hmm. be better? Like, does everybody need to be going through breakups? Are people that are in happy relationships, like, fooling themselves? Like, maybe they need a breakup. Like, I mean, this was pretty fresh, so I, at this time, almost felt a little bit cynical of, like, what? So you're telling me I'm gonna have to feel intense pain to be a better version of myself? Mm-hmm. And then I had this, like little God moment of, like, just, like, a laugh of, like, you don't have to let a man pull that out of you.
Yeah.
Like, that is, of course, a really drastic breakup will do it, and maybe it's because you allowed that much comfort in being that stagnant be mm-hmm. what, so the relationship coming to an end, like, had to occur at that point because mm-hmm. it's like you were only going to do so much to not be within this just, like, really fixed state. But how, like, you don't have to stop improving. You don't have to stop growing. No. You don't have to stop pushing yourself to be uncomfortable. We mm-hmm. talked about that a lot earlier. Yeah. How, like, being uncomfortable is the most powerful thing.
Yeah.
And how that's how you know, pressure makes diamonds, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's just how
Truly.
It works.
Yeah.
And so I remember thinking, like, sitting there in my car being like, okay, fine. Mm-hmm. That's my flaw, is me thinking, like, oh, I have to have my heart broken in order to be pushed to be better, mm-hmm. at least to this degree, right?
Yeah.
Like, no, that's ridiculous. So you don't need a man to get better. Like, just keep pushing yourself. Don't stay in a box.
There's always room for growth.
Yeah.
Even if you think you're perfect. Yeah. And we've kind of already gone over that. Mm-hmm. You are not. I am so sorry, audience, to tell you, you are not perfect, and it is okay. Because neither am I, and neither is Scout. And Scout is a sparkling diamond through all this pressure.
Stop.
But we are not perfect. And I don't want this to sound bad, but I'm also so grateful for your heartbreaks, because you have taken that pain and truly molded it into powerful motivation to continue to grow. And that is just so amazing to see. Like, you've become, I could cry. Like, you have really become, like, one of the best people I know. And I love that.
And I would be a disgrace if I didn't say, like, in what was the hardest valley of my life personally, like, mm-hmm. people like you picked me up by my elbows, set me on my feet, and walked me forward. Oh. So that's why investing in the right people and saying goodbye to the ones that walk away is so important, because I have people mm-hmm. like you and people in San Antonio who mm-hmm. would drop anything and did drop everything for me when I was at my lowest. And mm-hmm. like, how beautiful that is. Like, okay, then goodbye to the other people. I don't need you then. Like, how beautiful. I'm so blessed. I have too many blessings to be focusing on anything else, mm-hmm. you know? And, like, that's, I think, the comedy of our island question of, like, like, are there people that don't like me? Yes, ma'am. There sure are.
Yeah.
But also, like, how many people love me,
Mm-hmm.
and how I love so many of them. Like,
yeah.
And that's where we need to focus our energy, right?
Yeah.
And so, like,
No, absolutely.
I'm so blessed.
Yeah, me too.
I am.
Okay, let me clean myself up.
I'm sorry. You're so sweet.
You're so right, and it's all just so good, and it's crazy to think how all of this pain can make such beautiful things, you know? Mm-hmm. And I think that's just like the moral of heartbreak. It sucks, but sometimes it also is so worth it, you know?
Mm-hmm. But bottom line, if it's from the Lord, if it is holy, and if it is for you, it cannot pass you. Yeah. And just find peace in that.
So good. Preach. Amen.
Talk about something. I say it to myself every single day.
Yeah.
And like, if it's for you, it cannot pass you. No. So praise the Lord.
And you will know when it's here for you. Mm-hmm. Like, you'll just know. Mm-hmm. And I love that so much.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
You're the best. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited for you going forward. I can't wait to see where you go next. I know it's only going to be up, and it's only going to be so good. Mm-hmm. And I love just watching it.
I love you.
Oh, okay. Well, let me wipe these tears some more. Thanks for watching. I am just so grateful for Scout again, and I hope y'all liked this perspective of heartbreak. It has been a good run here on this episode. We've laughed, we've cried. We'll probably still gonna laugh and cry some more after this, but y'all, thank you again for being here. Like, comment, subscribe. I can't wait for next week. It's gonna be so good. And Scout, thank you again for being here. I love you.
I love you more.
Okay, well, bye.
Bye.